For as long as anyone could remember, the villagers of Hallowpine whispered about him, a lone bear who patrolled the edge of the northern forest like a sentinel carved from earth and shadow. Hunters dared not cross him. Loggers steered clear of his territory. But those who respected the woods were always safe. No one knew where the bear came from, only that he appeared after a great wildfire decades ago, and never left. Some called him a spirit. Others, a curse. But to 12-year-old Elia, he was something else entirely. Because the day her younger brother vanished into the trees, and the village gave up searching, she saw the bear, standing silently beside the boy, shielding him from a circle of wolves. That moment changed everything. Because this wasn't just a bear. It was a guardian. And when the forest came under threat, it would rise to protect again. The village of Hallowpine lay tucked between icy mountains and the shadow of the northern forest, an ancient sprawling stretch of wilderness untouched by roads, industry, or modern noise. Children were warned never to cross the boundary where the pine trees thickened, where the sunlight grew thin. Not because of bandits or wolves. Because of the bear. Old men called him Morvek. Some said he was born from fire, others that he was once human, cursed to wander the woods he failed to save. But all agreed. He was massive, intelligent, and fiercely protective. The first time Elia heard about the bear, she was 6. Her grandfather had taken her to the edge of the forest to gather fallen branches. He'd stopped mid-step, holding up a hand. "Listen," he whispered. She did. Just beyond the trees, the forest held its breath. No birdsong. No rustling. Then a low rumbling growl, so deep it vibrated in her chest. They left without another word. The years passed. Elia, now 12, grew restless. While most girls in the village learned to cook, sew, or herd sheep, Elia preferred books, tree climbing, and chasing fireflies through the meadow. But the forest always called to her, quietly, like a lullaby she didn't understand. She would sit on the hill at dusk, staring at the trees, wondering, was the bear real? Had anyone ever seen him, and lived? She asked her mother once. "Don't speak of that thing," her mother snapped. "It's not a friend. It's a warning." But warnings don't watch over children. And Elia would learn that sooner than anyone expected. The sky turned to iron that morning. Low clouds hung over the mountains, and the air smelled like snow. Elia's younger brother, Micah, just 7, had insisted on helping gather pine cones near the forest's edge. Elia hesitated. Not too close. Just the clearing. Micah nodded, clutching a small cloth bag and bouncing ahead. They wandered together for a while, laughing, tossing snowballs, racing between trees, until Elia turned her back for just a moment to chase a red squirrel deeper into the brush. When she turned back, Micah was gone. "Micah!" she shouted, panic rising like a storm. No answer. She ran to the last place she saw him. Just footprints, then nothing. No trail. No broken branches. As if the forest had swallowed him whole. By sundown, the villagers were searching. Lanterns bobbed through the trees. Dogs barked. Voices echoed. But no one found Micah. And by nightfall, the elders had called off the search. "He's gone," her mother sobbed. "The bear took him." Elia sat outside, numb. Her fists clenched in her lap. She didn't believe it. Couldn't. That night, she waited until everyone slept. Then she slipped out, wrapped in her cloak, lantern in hand, and followed her brother's trail into the dark. She walked for hours. Snow fell in soft, whispering flakes. She called his name over and over, until her voice cracked. And then, she heard something. Not a voice. Not an echo. A low grunt. Heavy breath. And from between the trees, something massive moved. In the pale moonlight, she saw it, the bear. Towering. Muscular. Its fur black with streaks of gray. Eyes dark but not wild. Standing behind it, safe and unharmed, was Micah. Frozen in place, Elia didn't know whether to run or cry. But the bear simply looked at her, blinked slowly, then stepped aside, allowing the boy to run into her arms. She clutched Micah, sobbing with relief. When she looked up again, the bear was gone. Micah had no words for what happened. He remembered following a rabbit too far, then losing his way, then hearing snarls, wolves. At least 3 of them. I thought they'd tear me apart, he whispered, shaking in bed. And then the bear came. Word of Micah's return spread through Hallowpine like wildfire. But no one believed he was protected. Not the council, not the hunters, and certainly not the elders. They blamed luck. Or frostbite. Or claimed the bear was just biding its time, waiting for the next child to wander too close. Only Elijah knew the truth. She had seen it in the bear's eyes. It wasn't a predator. It was a guardian. She began sketching it in her notebook, drawing the patterns in its fur, the mark on its chest, an odd pale patch shaped almost like a flame. She asked the town's librarian about it, an old woman named Marta who had lived in Hallowpine for 70 years. Marta listened carefully and said nothing for a long time. Then finally, "You're not the first child that bear saved." She showed Elijah an old journal, leather-bound, brittle with age. Inside were stories, passed from one generation to the next. When fire scorched the northern woods, and man did not care, a beast rose from the ashes, not of rage but of grief. It took nothing, demanded nothing. It simply watched. Elijah felt a chill, not of fear but of awe. When man hunts for greed, the guardian stirs. But when the forest cries out, it protects its own. She understood then, this wasn't just a bear. It was part of the forest. As ancient as the mountains. A silent protector no one had asked for, but desperately needed. And the time was coming when they would need him more than ever. Because what crept toward the forest now was not wolves, nor winter. It was machines. 2 weeks after Micah's return, a convoy of trucks arrived from the city. Bright red with heavy tracks and towering cranes, they rolled in like beasts of their own, growling engines, iron teeth, and blinking lights. The mayor shook their hands. "They'll build a new road," he told the villagers, "bring progress. Open up the forest to trade, tourism, and opportunity." But the villagers, especially the elders, looked uneasy. No one had dared cut into the northern forest in over 50 years. "Elijah," Marta warned, "this is what the stories spoke of. When greed enters the forest, the guardian awakens." Elijah watched the machines from the edge of the woods, clutching her notebook to her chest. She didn't have to wait long. On the 3rd day of cutting, the men found their tires slashed. The next morning, a crane lay overturned, no signs of sabotage, no footprints in the snow. They laughed it off, at first. But then one of them went missing. The others claimed they saw a shape in the trees. Towering. Silent. Watching. The project halted. The city men wanted blood. They offered a bounty. They called it a rogue bear, a threat to public development. A small team of armed hunters entered the forest with tranquilizers and rifles. Elijah followed. She didn't tell anyone, only left a note in her room. "He's not dangerous, unless you make him be." Deep in the woods, snow clung to the branches like dusted lace. Elijah moved like a shadow behind the hunters, ducking behind logs and brush. Then, gunshots. Shouting. A roar so thunderous it split the sky. She sprinted toward the sound and stopped cold. There, surrounded by the hunters, stood the bear. Breathing heavy. Flanks trembling. One dart stuck in its shoulder. But it didn't charge. It stood its ground. Defending something. Behind the bear, nestled in the roots of an ancient pine, Elijah saw it. A den. Inside, 2 tiny cubs. The hunters raised their rifles. "No!" Elijah screamed, stumbling into the clearing, arms outstretched. "Don't shoot!" Startled, the men lowered their weapons slightly. The bear didn't move. It didn't growl. It simply stood, between them and the den. A living wall of fur, muscle, and fierce devotion. Elijah stepped forward slowly, heart hammering. "This bear, it's not attacking you. It's protecting its young. Just like it protected my brother. Just like it's protected this forest, for generations." The lead hunter sneered. "It's a beast." "No," Elijah said firmly. "He's a guardian. You're the threat." The forest seemed to lean in. The wind stilled. The trees held their breath. Then, another sound. Soft, but rising. Voices. Villagers. Dozens of them, coming through the woods, led by Marta. Children. Elders. even Elia's mother. And they all saw the same thing. The bear. Wounded. Defiant. Protecting what mattered most. Marta stepped forward. Enough blood. Enough silence. Let the forest speak. And in that moment, they listened. The city men packed their trucks and left by week's end. The council voted to declare the northern forest protected land, with the bear as its symbol. Hunters who once feared it began leaving offerings at the forest edge, apples, honey, carved tokens. Not out of worship, out of respect. Elia returned every week to the old pine grove. Sometimes she saw paw prints. Sometimes not. But always, she felt watched. Not with menace, but with memory. Years passed. Elia grew up, became a ranger, and taught children about the guardian, no longer a legend, but a truth rooted in soil and fur. And one winter evening, as fresh snow blanketed the trail, she paused beside the great pine. And there, just beyond the trees, he stood. Older now. Gray streaking his massive face. A cub at his side. He looked at her. She smiled. He blinked once. Then vanished into the forest he'd sworn to protect.